This is the Deseret News National Edition, when your family needs to know more.
2 years after Superstorm Sandy, thousands of families still struggle to rebuild, especially low-income residents. While government help has been slow, community help has kicked in. Good morning. Welcome to the Deseret News National Edition. I'm Dave McCann. Of the 5.8 million people hit hardest by Katrina, more than 1 million were already living in poverty before the storm, according to the Center on Budget and Policy Priorities. Likewise, Sandy hit low-income neighborhoods hard. Deseret News reporter Lane Anderson joins us this morning via Skype from New York. Good morning, Lane.
Good morning, Dave.
You have been in these neighborhoods. What kind of circumstances are folks living in even today?
You know, Dave, when you walk down the streets of some of these neighborhoods, they look like a normal neighborhood. It looks like it's back on their feet. As soon as you go behind closed doors, you find that people are living on the second floor of their homes. Their homes are damaged. They're stripped down, bare to the studs. People have unworkable bathrooms. So people are actually still living in homes that are still damaged or even unlivable.
Talking to folks there involved, rebuilding efforts stalled under former New York Mayor Michael Bloomberg. What about the new mayor? How's he doing with this?
Yeah, so Mayor de Blasio has made this a priority. As you can imagine, there's been a lot of controversy, a lot of frustration over how slow it has taken for aid to get to these families. So de Blasio has made a real effort to try to speed things up. He revamped the program in June. Since then, the government has been able to help hundreds of families, but there are 20,000 families that applied for aid. So that's really still just a drop in the bucket. Things are happening, but they're happening slowly.
Let's talk about the true heroes here involved. How are homeowners stepping in to fill the void left by a slow government response?
Yeah, so the happy story here is that people have really stepped up to help their neighbors and help their community members. They've kind of quietly come together to help other people rebuild their homes. Several nonprofits, faith-based groups have come in, and there's no official numbers for this, Dave. Nobody's really keeping track officially of how many homes they've been able to rebuild, but the numbers are in the thousands. There's still a lot of work to do, but that's pretty impressive when you consider that the city has only been able to help to date maybe 700 families.
How do they decide who gets to have their home rebuilt and who doesn't?
Yeah, you know, that depends a lot on the nonprofit and who they decide to help. But for most of them, they're looking at families that are considered low income, that only make a certain percentage of the median income of New York City. And they're helping those families first. Also, families that have small children or elderly people that need help first.
We see these catastrophes strike, and then we see this wave of volunteer support no matter where it is in the world, or especially in this country. How about the volunteers there, and how impressive have they been?
I mean, I think that most of the groups that I've spoken to say that they actually have more volunteers than they can use sometimes, which is actually really great. That's really heartening that so many people want to be involved. They especially need people who are skilled. So we're talking about people who have some kind of skilled labor. Maybe they have experience in construction or plumbing or electricity. And some of those people are coming forward as well.
Maybe most importantly, what have the folks learned through this experience that might help them better prepare themselves for the next one? Because there will be a next one.
And you're absolutely right about that. And that's what a lot of the research is saying, Dave, is that due to climate change, this is something that will keep happening in America and across the globe. And there's going to be a big role for community help and for volunteer work in helping that rebuild. Even when we have the funds from the government, they don't always come when we need it. It doesn't always come fast. And so there's going to be a big role in neighbors and communities helping each other to recover from these things.
Always good to have good neighbors. Lane Anderson live in New York for us this morning. Thanks, Lane.
Thanks, Dave.
You can read much more about the recovery and the volunteer efforts, plus find out how communities can better prepare for a natural disaster like Superstorm Sandy in the Deseret News National Edition. The First Amendment Partnership unites and coordinates action among the nation's largest faith communities on matters of religious freedom policy. Tim Schultz is the president of that organization. He sits down with Deseret News editor Paul Edwards to discuss what individuals can do in their own communities to protect religious freedom.
Tell us a bit about this new organization.
Well, we are an umbrella group for the nation's faith communities as they work together on religious freedom public policy issues and the messaging surrounding those public policy issues. So all religious groups will tend to have their own public policy apparatuses, whether that's the Catholic Church, the LDS Church, the Baptist Church, etc. But they have all decided that when they work together, and they are increasingly work together on these issues of religious freedom, that they're doing it under the umbrella of the First Amendment Partnership in Washington, D.C.
Now, there are some other organizations that are helping to litigate cases that affect religious freedom. So it seems like the courts are doing quite a bit in this arena to help protect religious rights. We've seen a number of major cases before the Supreme Court in recent years. How are you different from a group that might just be involved with public interest litigation around religious freedom?
Well, for starters, litigation's important. We have to have good lawyers defending religious freedom using the laws that we already have. In my own opinion, the Becket Fund for Religious Liberty is the best of those organizations, but there are many others that do worthy work. But in the end, these court cases are frequently decided based upon statutes passed by the federal government and state legislatures. Recent cases have been decided based upon a very important 1993 federal law called the Religious Freedom Restoration Act. Many of these state cases are decided under state statutes. So literally the amount of religious freedom you have in a state can be dependent upon what your state legislature does.
Are local statutes at all involved with, do they raise a concern or an opportunity?
They can. There are sometimes local laws, zoning laws, actions of local governments that impact religiously oriented businesses and also religious institutions. I mean, really, 80% of the laws we have in this country are not from the federal government. They're from state, local, and even below local laws and regulations. And so really any kind of law or regulation that a government does has a chance of butting up against religious freedom, and that's what we have to be careful about.
And in terms of thinking about religious freedom, are we thinking just about what affects a church in its operations, or does it extend beyond just what a church might want to do?
The framers of the Constitution deliberately chose the word the free exercise of religion. That's an active word. It sort of means more than just the right to worship, which of course is a key component of free exercise, but it also has to extend outside the walls of a church, synagogue, or mosque. Anybody who's religious knows that the impulse of religion is not just to serve oneself, but it's to serve others. That means you're necessarily going to build institutions to do that are going to extend outside the walls of your own house of worship. So it definitely has to include protection for religious institutions and for individuals who want to live and form businesses consistent with their own religious conscience.
Tim, some people are very concerned today about religious freedom, and I think it stems a bit from increased secularism in our society, perhaps a misunderstanding of religious freedom. But I wonder, are you optimistic or pessimistic about where we're going in terms of thinking about the rights of people of faith and conscience in our country?
I would say that I'm optimistic but vigilant. I think there are some social trends that threaten religious freedom. The rise of people who don't affiliate with any religion anymore. It's not good for religion and for religious freedom that that's the case, because you have fewer people who really have a rooting interest in a particular religious team, if you will. So that's a troubling trend. On the other hand, we have these great victories in courts. We have laws that are passing all around the country with very strong bipartisan majorities to protect religious freedom. So I think you always, in these cases, have to look at the threats and you have to look at the good reasons to be optimistic as well.
So Tim, if I'm a person of faith who might be concerned and vigilant with regard to religious freedom within my own community, what are some ways that I might get involved to show that kind of vigilance?
I think the first and easiest thing you could do is to go to a website called faithcounts.net. This is a very new but growing social media movement that has profound messages about how faith serves the common good. It's not on behalf of any particular faith community, it's been on behalf of all faith communities, and indeed many communities are involved in this effort. It's an easy way for you to share important messages about faith on whatever social media platforms you are personally active in. Another thing you can...
And that's faithcounts.net.
Faithcounts.net. Another thing, if you're more interested in the legislative side of things, Obviously, you can encourage state legislators that you know to be involved with this issue, to interface with us. We are at firstamendmentpartnership.org.
Okay.
You can go to our website. You can contact us through that website. If you want to connect us to faith leaders or legislators in your community, we're very happy to have those connections.
Tim Schultz of the First Amendment Partnership with Deseret News editor Paul Edwards. Next, meet a family using music to meet their challenges when the Deseret News National Edition continues.